everyone. This is Misha Houston, and I'm here to do my review of If Loving You Is Wrong. Tonight's episode is entitled Chains, Guns, and Automobiles, and it was also the season finale. And I have to say that I really enjoyed this episode. It was not the greatest season finale, but it was much better than last time. As I recall, I remember saying that the last season finale's episode was like Flat Sprite, lifeless and dull and lackluster. But I have to say that I really enjoyed this season finale, and I thought it was much better, and there were a few shockers in it that, had me wanting more. So I am definitely, you know, pleased and proud of this episode. I enjoyed writing it up. And I do look forward to If Loving You Is Wrong coming back in the new year. Also, before I get started, The Haves and the Have Nots is also returning, and it's also going to be returning, in the new year, January 9th. So I am going to be taking a break from filming, with the exception of other shows that I'm doing, such as Game of Thrones. In every video and live stream attached to that show, but I will be back January 9th, with the new episode of The Haves and the Have-Nots. So make sure you come back. And if you don't watch Game of Thrones, I suggest that you do watch it because it is a great show. And feel free to stop by my weekly live stream. Tomorrow I will be doing a Game of Thrones live stream. So check us out at 9 Central, in the PM in the prime time. So, check us out at that time if you want to see me in action, talking about Game of Thrones, with my friends, you know. So check us out if you're willing to, and check out Game of Thrones because it is a great show. Thank you. Now, as I said before, I'm doing the If Loving You Is Wrong season finale. And as I said before, I thought it was a very good episode and I appreciated it and I enjoyed it. And I am, as I said before, looking forward to the next episode in the new year. So thank you so much, Tyler Perry. Now, the first group of people we go to is Randall, Larry, Marcy, Alex, and Brad, who is asleep in bed. And these are two scenes back to back. Now, Randall and Larry are at the house and they are talking, and Randall is shocked by what he heard. And he's asking Larry multiple times, is Marcy pregnant? Larry, tries to lie and deny and negate it. And he's saying that he was actually talking about Alex and not Marcy. Randall, believes that it is true, but he thinks that Brad is the father when the truth is he is the father of Marcy's baby. Randall thinks that Larry is playing with him and doesn't like it at all, and he orders Larry to leave his house. Now, Larry is completely drunk and doesn't want to drive, but Randall, just wants him out. He doesn't want to hear any excuses. He just wants him out of the house. Larry, lies and says that Marcy is not pregnant, but Randall knows it to be true. He remembers Marcy being at the hospital, and he has put it all together. Larry tries to talk to Randall, but Randall screams at him to leave his house, and Larry takes off for the door. After Larry leaves, Randall calls Marcy on the phone, but she completely rejects his call. Then Marcy tries to start her car so she can go home, but apparently the car has broken down. She calls for help, but the tow truck says that it'll be another 2 hours. Then she calls for Brad to come and take her home, but Alex answers instead. They immediately get into it over Marcy calling for Brad. Marcy explains that she's having legitimate car trouble, and Alex, just doesn't care. Marcy says that she is not kidding and she doesn't want to wait 2 hours for a tow truck. Alex tells her to call a cab, but Marcy counters saying that I need to be here with my car, to give them the keys to the car. But Alex just wants her to call a cab and and just not call her house again. Marcy says that if I have to call a cab, then I'm gonna knock on your front door and take him right out of your bed. Alex calls Marcy a bitch and says, my husband does not belong to you. But Marcy replies, it felt like it when he was in my bed. And Marcy warns her, if you don't put him on the phone, I'm going to come over there in a cab and I'm going to knock on your front door. I'm not joking. This is what's going to happen if you don't let me talk to him. Alex, is unmoved by any of that. And she says goodbye and hangs up the phone in Marcy's face. After she hangs up, Marcy says, oh, you think I'm playing? Then she picks up her phone and dials for a cab. And apparently, we're going to carry on with this little love triangle on into the new year. And even though I hate that Brad has chosen to return to Alex, I kind of want Marcy to go ahead and move on with her life, preferably with Ian. But, that's just how the story is written. But I understand Marcy's pain, absolutely, and it is a slap in the face to her to have Brad go back to Alex. Ugh, she's an inferior specimen, no doubt about it. Now, the next group of people we go to is Larry, Randall, Alex, and Brad. Larry is outside sitting in Randall's rocking chair. He comes outside wanting Larry to leave. But Larry says that he is drunk and he's waiting for his car, but his car is parked right outside, on the street in front of Randall's house. Randall again orders him to leave, but Larry wants to know why Randall is treating him like this. Randall responds saying that you were trying to play me for a fool. Then Randall tries to go to Marcy's apartment, but Larry stops him by grabbing his car keys. They both been drinking, and Larry doesn't want to drive his own car, and he doesn't want Randall to drive either. Then they get into an altercation over the keys. And as this is going on, Alex wakes up and she goes to the window to watch. Randall and Larry are on the lawn together, and during their struggle, Larry asks, are you getting an erection? I mean, Larry is such a pervert. And I'm not saying that because he's gay. It's just because his attitude. His attitude, the way he smiles, the way he talks. He's just a perv. Randall yells at him to get off of him. And then Larry says, are you going to calm yourself down? And Randall agrees to calm himself down, and Larry lets him go, and then they separate. Then Randall makes another charge at Larry, I guess for the keys. And then while they are doing that, Randall sees Alex watching from the window, and he screams up to her, saying, what are you looking at? What are you doing? And then Randall unzips his pants and, exposes himself to Alex. And he's saying, is this what you want, huh? This is what you're after? Oh, I know what's going on here. And all the while, as he is whipping, exposing himself and whipping out his genitalia, Larry is waving, in the background. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Alex closes her curtains and then she goes back to bed. Brad wakes up to the sounds of the shouting. Alex tells Brad that Randall is fighting with some guy in the yard. And Brad says that he hopes he gets his ass beat. Outside, Randall slams Larry into the car. And then they look into each other's eyes and they're hovering over, around each other. They're hovering on each other just like this. And it seems to me that there is some sort of an attraction going on on Randall's part. I mean, it's obvious that that Larry is attracted, but apparently there's some sort of attraction going on with Randall. I mean, I believe that Randall is a straight man, but there have been instances where straight men have been attracted to gay men. So, I mean, that's what I think is going on. They're looking into each other's eyes, and Larry is saying, "What are you doing?" And there's obviously some sort of an attraction there. Randall tells Larry, after they get through hovering over each other, Randall tells Larry to just go home. Then Randall notices the leather toys and equipment in Larry's car, in the back seat of Larry's car. And Larry says, "Oh, it's just wishful thinking." Then Randall calls him a freak, and Larry says that he loves it. And, then Larry is looking at him, with that come hither look in his eye, and there's obviously an attraction there. Then Randall asks him plainly, as a friend, do you know that Marcy's pregnant? Is Marcy pregnant? And Larry denies it again. Larry says that he wants to sleep it off, and then he goes into Randall's house. And eventually, Randall lets him go back inside of the house. And it's just a very strange chemistry between those two, and I really don't know what to say about it. As I said last week, Randall and Larry are beyond my understanding. I just don't get it with those two. Now, the next person we goes to is Esperanza, and it's a quick filler scene, and she's in bed looking at pictures of Stephen. She might as well just call him over because we all know she wants to get with him. Now, the next group of people we go to is Eddie, Natalie, and Kelly. Kelly calls Natalie, telling her that she heard something in her backyard. Lucian is not there, so Natalie comes over with her gun. At Kelly's house, Natalie says that she's going in the backyard. She's sick of this BS and she wants to go back there. And if he is back there, she's going to light him up. Natalie goes to the backyard and she sees Eddie peeking over the fence. You know, he's peeking over the fence and he is in Brad's backyard. She says that she was about to shoot him, but Eddie is unafraid of any of it. He says that he was minding his own business and it has nothing to do with her. Natalie complains that people are trying to sleep in here, and Eddie replies, "Just get your ass back in there and go to sleep." After Natalie leaves, she tells Kelly that it was Eddie in the backyard, and Natalie gives Kelly her gun. Natalie, wants her to stand up for herself, and she tells her to take the gun and just pull the trigger. Kelly is unsure about herself having the gun, but Natalie says that this man was trying to hurt you, which is true. Natalie says, "Just kill the motherfucker." She says that it is her gun and it is legitimate and it has a really nice balance. Kelly worries about Travis coming to Natalie's house, but Natalie is not worried, and she says they'll be taking him out of there in little pieces if he comes around. Kelly eventually takes the gun, and Natalie says, "You go and rest in peace." And that scene kind of reminded me of one of Tyler Perry's other movies called Diary of a Mad Black Woman. In one of those scenes, Medea is saying, "I always keep peace with me because I carry me, a piece of steel. Hold you still, love you still. Thank you, Jesus." Check out the movie if you haven't. It's very, very funny. It's one of my favorites from him. Now, the next group we go to is Brad, Alex, Eddie, and Marcy. Brad and Alex hear noises and they think that it's Randall. They go outside to the backyard to find Eddie asleep on the lounge chair. Brad tells him to go home, but Ed replies that he has no home to go home to. Brad doesn't want him to stay, so he asks Alex to let him stay in a very nice voice, in the nicest voice that I've ever heard Eddie speak to a person. Brad said that he gave him his credit card, but Eddie said that it had reached its limit. Brad said that it was a $5,000 card and it had a $5,000 limit on it. But Ed replies that there is no Black Friday sale on cocaine and hookers. Eddie says that it's a beautiful night out here in nature and that he wants to stay here. Brad eventually gives him a pillow and a blanket, and Ed says, "There you go. You can have your wife sleeping with a neighbor, but you can't give your friend a blanket and a pillow." Brad says that he's trying to help him, but Ed says that you ain't never done a thing for me, Brad, which is completely untrue because he just gave him a $5,000 credit card. I mean, he's done a lot. He just doesn't want to acknowledge it. He tells Brad good night, and he says he likes his eggs scrambled. Back in the bedroom, Alex pouts to Brad about Eddie sleeping in the backyard. She says that she has disowned him. Brad says that he needed help, and Alex agrees that he does need help. But, it's a help that Brad can't give him. Brad wants for Eddie to get his act together, but Alex replies, "Don't count on it." Then there is a knock on the front door, and it is Marcy. She says that she called for Brad, but Alex wouldn't put him on the phone. Alex says that you were sleeping and that she didn't want to wake him. Marcy explains that there was sugar in her tank, put there by Randall, and that she needs to borrow his car. Alex is rolling her eyes in the background, but Brad agrees to help her. Marcy says that she has work tomorrow and she has a client flying in from Los Angeles. Alex chirps at her, saying that maybe you can just rent a car. And then Marcy says that I'm not going into the city right now to rent a car. But I mean, apparently at that time of night, there are no car rental places open anyway. Silly. Brad says that he is fine with her borrowing, the car, and Marcy thanks him for it. He also offers to help her with the boxes, and he goes upstairs to get his shoes. Then Marcy says, "You see, bitch, he'll always come to my rescue." Then Alex threatens to go to Randall about her being pregnant. Marcy says, "Go right ahead, and it'll be about the same time that I'm sleeping with your husband." Marcy says that Brad loves her and admits that that love is not going away anytime soon. Marcy says, "When I slept with him, I made sure that he remembered me." Brad says that he'll be right back. Alex wants to wait up for him, but Brad disagrees. She says that she will wait up for him. And then she kisses Brad in front of Marcy, trying to throw it up in her face. Marcy says, "Oh, you should get some sleep because you look worn out and tired. We'll be a while." And then she slams the door in Alex's face. I don't have any sympathy for Alex because she created this entire situation. Brad and Marcy had no interest in each other before the affair. The affair is what brought those two together, and now she's upset over the mess that she has made. It's no one's fault but her own that there's some sort of an attraction between Brad and Marcy. No one's fault but her own. Now, the next group of people we go to is Kelly, Lucian, and Natalie. Lucian goes by Kelly's house and tells her that they had nothing to hold Travis on and we had to let him go. Kelly screams at him, saying that this man has ruined my life, and she demands that Lucian do something about him. Lucian says that this is going to take some time, and Kelly asks him how much time. Lucian apologizes but has no answer for her. Kelly asks, "Does this man have to kill me before you do something about it? How are you going to stop it?" She challenges him, saying that you didn't even know that he was in my backyard. Lucian wants her to calm down, but Kelly is very upset, and she asks him, "How am I going to calm down? I have a son to think about." Kelly says, "This is just too much, and I can't take this anymore." She says that she is not okay, and she wants her life and her freedom back. She swears that she will not let this bitch ass kid do anything to hurt her anymore. Lucian says that we're going to get him and that he's right next door if she needs him. He asks for her to lock the door and set the alarm, which she does. Then Lucian goes home to Natalie, who is waiting up for him. Natalie says that she had to go over to Kelly's house to help her. And then, she tells Lucian about Eddie and the altercation in the backyard. Kelly then says that, no, excuse me, Lucian says that Eddie wouldn't want to go home because they trashed his house in the search. Then Lucian tells Natalie that Travis was released. There was nothing to hold him, so they had to let him go. As far as Travis goes, he said there was nothing to hold him and they had to let him go. And then Natalie says that she gave Kelly her gun. Lucian is upset by this, but Natalie says that the police took her other gun and Kelly having the gun gives her comfort. Lucian wants the gun back the first thing in the morning, and Natalie says that she's going to give her the gun safe and everything should be good. Lucian reprimands Natalie for giving Kelly Michelle's number, but Natalie swears that her gun is legitimate and she says goodnight. Kelly needs some kind of help because the police aren't doing anything about it. I mean, I can't even blame Kelly anymore. It's just ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. This man is terrorizing her, and the police aren't doing anything about it, making her think that she's the criminal and not him. Now, the next three people we go to is Larry, Randall, and Eddie. And to me, that this was the shocking scene of the night. To me, if they had switched places with the Kelly Travis scene, with this scene, it would have been a good ending. I felt like this was, the shocking scene of the episode. And the best scene, in my opinion, as well. Now, Larry and Randall go into the backyard to see the infamous shed. As they are out there, Eddie wakes up and overhears them talking. Larry asks questions. He's asking, is this the true shed? Is this where it happened? And they live right next door, and so on and so forth. And Randall says yes to all of it. Larry goes back to talking about the chains in his back seat. And he's saying that maybe we could set something up in the tool shed. I can set up the chains and the whips and all of that in the tool shed, and we can have a party together, pretty much. And all the while they're talking about this, Eddie is listening to them. Larry is talking about his wife and how she's a part of the S&M and bondage scene. And, they all, he invites Randall to join him, which Randall rebuffs. He completely rebuffs it, telling him that he's not into it. And as I said before, Eddie is watching all of this. Eddie is peeking over the fence and he's asking him, is that you want to sleep with Randall? You want to sleep with him in the tool shed? And Larry asks, who is this man? And Eddie introduces himself and tells them his name. Multiple times, Larry, tries to get Eddie to come over there and have drinks with him. I mean, he's down for it with anybody, apparently. And Randall is asking him, what are you doing? What's going on here? Larry says, maybe we ought to make some new history. But Eddie, temporarily shuts him down. But eventually, Eddie agrees to come over. And as Eddie, is walking over there, Larry says, do you remember what we did to Michael? Randall smiles and laughs, and he is apparently looking forward to whatever is about to take place. Eddie arrives and sits with them, and the vibe is as creepy as ever. It was totally creepy. Ed asks, what are you drinking on, ladies? And Larry answers, tequila. Randall hopes that the tequila will kill him. Larry thinks that Eddie is a neighbor, but Eddie says that he is Alex's cousin. the one that he was in the shed with. Larry, asks, "Did you hear what we were talking about?" And Eddie says yes, including the part about how you want to sleep with Randall. Larry admits to wanting to sleep with Randall, but Randall is not into it. Eddie thinks that Randall should be into it, and Randall thinks the same thing about Eddie. Eddie then asks Larry, "Who are you to Randall?" And Larry asks him, "Who are you to Randall?" And Eddie says, "This is this is my nightmare. He is my nightmare." Randall, says that Eddie took him out into the woods to try to kill me. Larry says, "Okay." And then he realizes that this was the one that Randall was trying to sue. Larry, tells him that he is the lawyer. And Eddie says, "Oh, I looked you up and I know the names of your wife and your children and where you live." He wanted to know all of this about Larry because he wanted to, fuck him up and mess up his life. But apparently the charges were dropped by Randall. Then Eddie asks, "Does your wife know that you want to get Randall into the shed?" Larry says that my wife is a dominatrix, and we have both been with Randall, and that me and my wife share everything, and that she's beautiful, and that you should meet her. Eddie says that any woman that has been with Randall, he wants no part of. Larry confesses to having bondage, toys and equipment in his car, but Eddie promptly refuses him, saying that "I'll just stick to the tequila," which he insults. Larry says that he'll go into the house and get another bottle. After Larry leaves, Eddie asks if Randall is still interested in getting with Alex. But Randall says no, she's dried up and I have my sights set on Esperanza now. Eddie, says that Esperanza is not into your kind. Randall asks, "What kind is that?" And Eddie answers, "Black." Randall says that you are the most sorry and racist person that I have ever met. Eddie says that I take pride in that, and it's pieces of shit like you that makes it really, really easy. All of a sudden, Larry puts a plastic bag over Eddie's head, and him and Randall choke Eddie out. Now, before I go on to the next section, I want to talk about those three. If it was a choice, I would have to choose Eddie because I would rather take one Eddie over two Randalls any day. And that's all that Larry is. He's just another Randall. And I would rather have one Eddie than two Randalls. So I'm hoping that Eddie, gets out of the situation with his life and takes revenge upon the both of them. I'm just sick to death of Randall and Larry. I'm just completely over those two. It's really sad. They have these new people coming into the story, and they seem like they could be good people, and very favorable among the fans. But apparently, they're just all horrible people, and I'm just sick to death of them. Now, the next two people we go to is Brad and Marcy. Brad shows up to help Marcy, and he notices that there aren't any boxes in the back seat. Marcy says that it was an excuse just to see him. You offered, so I accepted. Brad tells Marcy that she needs to stop this. Marcy asks him, why can't you help me get over you?" And then he accuses her of flattening her tire and sabotaging her car, which she completely denies. She believes that it was Randall who did it. Brad tells her that if you think that Randall is doing this, just call the police. But Marcy says she has no evidence against him. He says again that she can't keep calling him this late at night and that he's at home with Alex. Marcy, asks him, "Do you think that you could ever be happy with Randall living next door?" And Brad admits that he is terrorizing them and abusing them. He's put cameras on his porch pointing at the house, and that he's put lights on the side of his house pointing into the bedroom. Marcy calls Randall relentless, and she says, "What am I going to do since I miss you so much?" He says that the feeling will pass. Marcy says that she was on a date with a very attractive man, but all she could think about was his cologne and how happy Brad made her feel. And she also admits that she's having a very hard time with this. Brad apologizes, but he says that he loves his wife. Then he floats the idea of her going back to Randall, which is a very, very, very bad idea. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, he may want to go back to a barnacle like Alex, but that doesn't mean that Marcy should automatically go back to Randall. Absolutely not. No way. Then Alex calls Brad's cell phone wanting him to come home, and then they trade I love yous, much to the dismay of Marcy. They both get in Brad's truck, and then they leave. And as I said before, I mean, I really hate the fact that they put Alex and Brad back together, but he doesn't want to leave. He thinks he's got the right idea, and it comes to find out that only a few episodes ago, she was lying right to his face. Again. So, I am not going to feel sorry for Brad anymore. He wanted this, he chose this, and he deserves whatever he gets from Alex. It's ridiculous. Now, the last scene of the night belongs to Kelly and Travis. Travis hops over Kelly's fence and cuts the cord, in Kelly's electrical box. Then he tries to get the window open just as Kelly walks outside of her bedroom, seeing him. He says hi, and then she says hi back. Travis notices that she's not afraid, but Kelly just says that she's tired. He asks to come in, and Kelly says okay. She unlocks the door and turns off the alarm, which was really foolish of Kelly. She should have let him break into the house so she'd have a proper justification for shooting him. Kelly knows, no, excuse me. Kelly allows him into the house and he locks the door behind him. She asks him, "What do you want?" And Travis says, "I want you." Travis says that he wants to go to the bedroom with her, but she says it's too close to justice. Kelly says that she missed him, and Travis says, I knew that you would. I knew that you would get tired. He says that all I had to do was wear you down, and I knew that you would give in. Kelly admits that she has been worn down and that she's exhausted. He tells her to take her clothes off, but she says, "I want to see you take your clothes off first." Travis says, "You want to see how sexy I am?" And Kelly says, "Yes, I think about it all the time." Travis says that what do you want to do? How do you want to get this started? And Kelly says, I just want to do you. So she pulls out her gun and she shoots Travis 4 times in the chest. He falls to the ground. He's coughing and he's dying. And we see the horror on Kelly's face. And that is where our season ends. Thank you so much for watching this video. And as I said before, I will be back in January 9th, for the season premiere of The Haves and the Have-Nots. My MVP of the night is Kelly for shooting Travis. It may be against the law, but in my opinion, it was the right thing to do. He was never going to stop. So for that reason, I have made Kelly my MVP. Thank you again for watching my video. And if you like my video, make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe. And I will be back in January, in the new year, for the next episode of The Haves and the Have-Nots. Enjoy your life as I do, and have a wonderful, wonderful day. Thank you so much.